Joining us in the room. We are just going to go live on the different social platforms. Give that 1 second here. For anybody that is live on the Zoom, I will start by saying welcome. I'm going to do some quick housekeeping because it's really relevant to you guys. If you have questions, as always, Q&A is always open. Chat's always open. If you have any kind of technical issues, you can hear us, any of that. Hope that doesn't happen, but send us over a quick chat. We're happy to help. We'll do what we can, get you guys rolling. Beyond that, ask away, right? We love interaction. Obviously, Rob's a busy guy. He's been on the road a lot. He's, I'm sure, going to be on the road even more this year because that's how this game works. And we obviously want to get you some good time with him. So you have questions for either of us, ask away. Everything's recorded, so the session will be live on both our YouTube as well as mspinitiative.com, which I'm going to pull up for you guys on the background here because I do want to go over one or two things as we get rolling. So let's go ahead. It looks like we should be live in all of our different sessions. So with that, welcome everyone to another session of MSP Initiative. I'm your host today, Alex Stanners, VP of Business Development at BVoIP. I am very pleased to be joined here by Rob Scott of Monjur. If you guys have not seen Monjur, they've been putting out some really cool stuff, doing some really good stuff for the channel. Very excited to work with you guys. I know we started to work with you guys a little bit towards the end of the year, and I'm just excited to see you guys joining it. Obviously, we've been noticing a lot of content that brought you guys to us, so appreciate that. That kind of all, high tide raises all ships, right? We're looking to continue to raise the channel and help everybody out. So I appreciate you guys putting that education and that knowledge out there that definitely helps move the channel forward. So if you want to take a quick second and introduce yourself, and then I'll jump into everything else.
Sure. My name is Rob Scott. I'm an attorney with Monjur. We're a cloud-based legal service offering customer contracting solutions for MSPs and MSSPs.
Awesome. Love that. So, Rob, I'm going to wrap everything up with the intro just by telling anybody that is not on Zoom that if they want to interact with us, do questions with us, we always try to keep track of the different socials, but this goes live on LinkedIn and Facebook and everything else. It is hard to keep track of all those. So if you want to ask a question, you want to interact with us, hop on over to the Zoom. You can find that on mspinitiative.com, which I will go ahead and quickly share my screen. So mspinitiative.com, you can hit this right away. You can jump right into our sessions. And I do want to just highlight one other thing real quick, and that is Community Mind. So this is near and dear to our heart project. So obviously these sessions are great, and these were kind of the brainchild of MSP Initiative. We said we're working with great people out there like Rob who have awesome knowledge and good experience to bring out to the channel. If we're working with all these people that are great experts in different areas, why can't we bring that live and really give that as not just somebody on stage who's telling me an idea or telling me things that they think could help my business, but somebody who truly gets out there and says, hey, we're going to sit down for the next 2 hours and we're going to work on your business. So whether it's we're going to build a sales program and just give you the bones to start it, or we're going to go over your MSA. We're going to talk about some of the biggest pitfalls we see in MSAs because, Rob, we're going to talk about it today. I'm sure that's a topic near and dear to your heart, but plenty out there that really could impact your business. And that was the goal. Timing set up where you generally get about 2 sessions per day. So 4 2-hour workshops that, the goal that we give to each speaker is MSPs need to walk out of this with something that will change their business. They'll push them forward. They'll help them be more successful. So that is what we've set out to achieve. We're doing 2 sessions this year. First one's coming up fast in April. So we're going to be in Nashville, everybody's favorite city. Actually where Rob is, I believe, right now. And then we're heading off to Denver. So it's actually where we held it last year. We'll be back there in July. So April 17th to the 18th and July 24th to 25th. Make sure to register, check out our social medias or mspinitiative.com for more information. And if you want to jump over that Zoom, that's also the best place to do it. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I want to jump into a little bit about your story, right? A cloud lawyer. I mean, it's definitely a newer term, right? You guys are definitely carving out a space, which is cool. I love that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story? How did you guys find the MSP space?
Well, thank you first of all, Alex, for having me. It's a pleasure to be on with you. And as you know, Monjur, proud supporters of the MSP Initiative and everything that you guys are doing. So keep up all that great work.
Thank you very much.
I graduated from law school in 1996. I founded a law firm with my brother and long-term partner, Jonathan, in 1999. And my law firm has been focused on computer law ever since. You know, our practice areas were in software, IT services, and privacy and security. We've recently added artificial intelligence as a practice area. In starting in the early 2000s, I began representing MSPs and customer contracting engagements, which inevitably was always the first engagement. You know, if an MSP says, I need a lawyer, when they get a lawyer, the first thing they ask the lawyer to do is review my contracts. And so I wound up developing customer contracts for hundreds of MSPs over the years. And I never really had a way to keep them updated. You know, I would email them a Word document, and then if they didn't ask me any questions, I would consider the engagement over. We would charge either a fixed fee or an hourly fee to work on the documents, and then that was the end of it. Well, over time, we started moving our clients to online terms and conditions. And then from there, where they were hosting the agreements and they were managing them, and from there, it wasn't a very big leap to move to a cloud-based offering where we were managing the contracts. And so the idea of Monjur, which is a combination of the word monthly and the Latin root for jurisdiction or jurisprudence, the Latin root for legal or law, was born as a project within the firm to create the technology for us to be able to develop, manage, and dynamically update our customers' agreements to the cloud, through the cloud, and to embed our smart hyperlinks into their existing sales processes and websites so that when a customer clicks an accept button in a quoting tool, all the legal agreements right along with it and are entered into at the same time. But our clients don't have to fool with the agreements at all. They configure the quote in the quoting tool. The quoting tool goes to the new client accepts the quote, and all of the legal terms and conditions are entered into at that time. So we start with industry-leading templates, we customize them for each client, and then we keep them dynamically updated through the cloud.
I love that. I think that's just a very nice modern way to do it. So law is near and dear to my heart. I married an attorney. So I definitely deal with that every day on the home side. Love seeing that in our space because I think there was such a disconnect from our space and let's say the traditional business world, but banks don't necessarily understand MSPs, right? When MSPs start to understand that, it's always tough for them, right? Because the general means of how you'd engage and grow your business was okay, you grow a little bit, then maybe you go to the bank, you get some money, you grow a little more. When you go to the bank, you're like, hey, this may manage contracts for endpoints. Like, we don't know or care what that
What
means.
does that mean? Yeah.
So being able to actually engage with an attorney that's like, oh yeah, no problem. So what's in your stack? What are you using? How do we protect you and your clients? Um, what a refreshing dialogue that is. But we definitely seen such, I think, a grasp for this, right? We're watching more and more regulation come down in our space, both in cybersecurity. I think there's a new wave of it coming. We saw the last 5 years really, I want to say the last 5 years were 100% focused on cybersecurity, but it became where cybersecurity became not yeah, we offer some of that too. We have to offer that. And I think the next one is AI. Everyone's asking for it. Clients are asking for it. How are you going to do it? And how are you going to legally protect yourself? So I loved hearing you say that you're touching that. I will touch on funny story that popped up earlier this year. I'm sure you know where I'm going with it. The guy online who talked about his MSA being written by AI. Thoughts, comments, concerns?
Look, I mean, I think AI is an incredibly powerful tool, particularly the large language models. There's a reason 200 million people signed up for OpenAI in a very short period of time. When you use it you're just in awe of its power. I use it extensively, but there are limits to how it can and should be used, and it's not a substitute for an attorney for sure. And the thing that I like to say about it is I wrote an article on getting a copyright in the U.S. Copyright Office on content that includes AI generated content and whether or not you can get a copyright on such works. And I used ChatGPT to draft the article, and it got the legal conclusion completely wrong. And so for me, it's okay because I know when it's wrong. For a layperson that doesn't have the expertise, they don't know when it's wrong. And so I caution people to use AI responsibly. I'm in the camp of very pro AI for business. I do think that you need appropriate policies and acceptable use policies related to AI. And you have to be aware of the copyrightability of what you draft. For example, all of our contract libraries that we provide to our customers are copywritten. We don't use ChatGPT to write our agreements, we write them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get a copyright on them. But we use ChatGPT for all kinds of things, including I created a ChatGPT application called Lawbee.
Yep.
And what Lawbee does is it analyzes contracts for me. It digests the agreement that the client or prospect provides, and it's aware of all of the terms and conditions in our templates and can analyze a new MSA against our templates very quickly to give me a report about what terms and conditions may be missing, so that when I have the first time appointment with a new client, I can go over the report with them very quickly and show, here's what your current agreement has. Here are the strengths and weaknesses of that agreement. And if you compare it to the comprehensive legal protections you would get from Monjur, these are the additional things that you would get. Without it, I couldn't do as many of these reviews as I do now. The tool, does most of the work. Now I'm supervising it, what I call lawyer in the loop, right? Nothing's being done by AI that's not a report for me then to give the advice to the client or the prospect, but it's still an invaluable tool. I use it to write letters. I use it to analyze pleadings. I use it to help me prepare for court, but I don't put client information in it because it's public and it's not confidential. So there's a number of things with AI that we need to be worried about. We have a full license library for AI licensing. So for those of you who are building applications with AI in it and need license agreements for your customers, those agreements are part of the Monjur platform.
Love it. Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're all seeing it, right? It's taking off like wildfire. It's very cool. It'll push you in the right direction. It can definitely do some of the monotonous work, right? And stuff that I'm not a graphic designer. Never have been. I can be creative, and I can definitely figure out my way through a graphic design program to get something that's decent usable. But it's never been my strong suit. It's something that, because it's not my strong suit, it will take me significantly longer to get that usable document out. I found that AI can be great in that. At the same point where we were getting some graphics ready for we're coming back to Australia post COVID. The kangaroo that was holding the cell phone picture that I tried to get AI to pump out had 6 hands, so that didn't look great. But I was supervising and I understood that wasn't supposed to be there. So I definitely think it's awesome. I think that it's going to just keep getting better. There's actually a vendor in the space that's doing something that I think is very cool. They kind of similar to what you're doing, right? They took their own knowledge and then let the AI learn from that. And then they've helped the AI kind of build off of it. So now it's in a really good usable place. They did it on the sales side. So they took years and decades of sales knowledge, whether it be sales comp plans, management documents, everything, and they pumped it all into an archive that it learned from. And they're developing out a tool for MSPs to have an AI sales manager. And I think it definitely helps a lot. I was very impressed when I saw it. stuff like, how would I sell VoIP services to my MSP, or how would I sell Threat Locker? And it would go to the Threat Locker website. It would look at all the features, functionality, and it would say, "Who are you selling it to?" "Oh, I'm selling it to a hospital." "Great, yeah, hospitals are going to focus on these points." Really impressive. But it took a lot of work to get it there,
Sure.
and I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, I think it, and that's where a part of the intellectual property issue is going to arise. It's like
Mhm.
the value creation in AI has to do with the learnings
Yeah,
and
great.
who owns the learnings, and then the outputs and who owns the outputs. And so part of what I did in developing, my approach to artificial intelligence was to go in and really try to create a terminology around intellectual property, because there's some of this stuff didn't exist, like in traditional software licensing, which is an area I've been in for a long time. All of the intellectual property is known at the time of the license agreement.
Yep.
But with AI, that's not true. A lot of the IP that will arise under the agreement is not yet developed. It hasn't even come to fruition. And so who owns that? How do you put that into a contract so that it's clear? Those were a lot of the challenges that we dealt with. And we've done a lot of work in that area. And all that work is now embedded into our templates for AI licensing. And that's one example. The other example is ethical issues. You don't have ethical issues in traditional software licensing. However, in our agreements, there's a service level agreement for the AI vendor that requires it to use responsible AI, transparency, for example, and those types of issues that are important to the ethical considerations when adopting artificial intelligence. So many new things, not just from a technical perspective, but in my world, the legal implications of all this new technology have been fascinating, and like you said, very quickly emerging. And in our space, I go to these conferences like you guys, and we look around, and you'll say there's 50 vendors here, one or two of them are touting AI. And I said last year that next year there'll be way more, and that by the third year everyone will have AI. So
Yep.
AI is going to be like what they said with IoT. It'll be everywhere and nowhere, in that there'll become a time where you won't be able to distinguish, right? It'll just be software or just be a service, but AI will infuse everything that we do, and including soon a lot of the things that we wear, right? And the equipment that we use and so forth. So it is really fascinating to live through a time where you're going through this technical transformation, a true renaissance. And I'm old enough to have seen some things myself. I was around when people said that no one would ever put their credit card on the internet to buy anything. I was around when people said that the cloud was just the most recent buzzword and would never amount to anything.
Oh yeah.
And so now, because I've seen some things and been through some things, I recognize the significance of this AI revolution, and am very excited to be participating in it from a legal, as a legal thought leader in this space. It's been a really fascinating part of my job.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've watched on my own side, from our software company, BVoIP. If you went back 3 to 5 years and asked me if AI was going to be a part of our solution, I'd say no. It is today. It's I think it's an interesting area, right? We really used it more for sentiment analysis than anything else, but it's able to actually analyze, is there anything to worry about on these calls? Or is there anything we should alert management about? Pattern recognition, things like that. But I also see the value of it to the MSPs and to the end clients, and the quick evolution of what happened with it. So I think that's great. I think there's a lot more to come from the legal aspect. Copywriting is a wildly fascinating area for that. I mean, I feel like we could probably go on around that for quite a bit, and I think that's a huge battle coming. I think the reality is, with AI being touched to movies and TV shows and everything else, there's no end to where that's going to land, and that battle is coming, and I'm sure it's coming quick. So
Well, within the last couple of weeks, the New York Times sued OpenAI for copyright infringement related to, their publications. And just a quick just overview in the United States, any content that's generated with AI is not copyrightable. That's not a close question. If it comes out of the tool, it's not copyrightable.
yep,
The open question is, what if you take AI generated content and mix it with human authored content?
yeah,
Under what circumstances does that hybrid content become copyrightable? And the answer to that is, if you modify it substantially, or if there's a human contribution in the selection or arrangement, then the resulting work can be copywritten. And so it's a really interesting thing. So, for example, when you write a book, I wrote a book on artificial intelligence. I
mhm,
used Chat GPT-4 to write it. Okay. The article that I told you about, that I said how to get a copyright in the US on content containing artificial intelligence, I used Chat GPT-4 to write that. But like I said, it got it wrong. I rewrote it. I edited it substantially, right? I
yep,
arranged the outputs in a way that made sense. And I got a copyright registration on that article on how to get a copyright in the US. I did that because I wanted to make a point, right? That you can get a copyright on works that contain AI generated content. There's a way to do that. But if you're using AI to create anything, whether it's a picture, a design, any kind of word, written information, the content that comes out of the AI is not copyrightable. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't mean you can't use it.
yep,
This is just a question of, can you preclude others from using it? So I use it to write letters. Do I care if I could get a copyright on the letter? No. I use it to come up with marketing campaigns. Do I care whether my, you know, email that says, "Hey, we're doing a new promotion," is not copyrightable? No, I don't care about that. So you just have to be careful how you're using it, and understand that for the most part, anything that comes out of an AI tool is not protectable. You don't own it.
yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's the big part. That'll come pretty quickly, and I think it will be tough, right? Because we talked a lot about inputting into the system to get more out, and we've all seen it, right? Oh, maybe if I ask it this way or this way or this way, and you go through 13 or 15 different ways to ask it, and finally get pretty close to what you wanted, and that's what you end up with. And I think that'll be the question: is people feel like they put a lot of work into it sometimes, get something out, but somebody else could get that if they just ask that question first. Um, that will be definitely a battle. It'll be interesting. And I
I,
do
I,
think it'll help.
I think that you're onto something, and I would tell you that the Copyright Office has addressed that question, and
Okay.
and and what they came up with is that the prompting, even if it's well engineered, is tantamount to the person who commissions an art piece. The person who commissions an art piece tells the artist, "I want it to be like this. I want these colors. I want it to be this size. These are the images that I want to be depicted. This is the genre that I want it to be in." And the Copyright Office says that prompting of a large language model is tantamount to commissioning art. The artist can get a copyright on the art. The person who commissions the art cannot. And so far, on the question of prompting in the United States, the Copyright Office has taken the position that prompting in and of itself is not sufficient to create a copyright interest in the output.
But OpenAI could turn around and just say, we want to copyright all the stuff we put out, and all of a sudden they control how much of the information, data, images, et cetera, that are out there.
That's what the lawsuit from the New York Times is about.
Yep.
So what I've been talking about is, could a user of ChatGPT-4, OpenAI, or any large language model get legal protection for the output? What you're now saying is, what intellectual property rights does the AI vendor have?
Mhm.
And how do those rights compare to the original content creator? In that example, the New York Times is like, just because your large language model scrubbed every article that the New York Times ever wrote, and now you're reproducing it for people, doesn't mean that the New York Times doesn't have a copyright on it. The
Yep.
only question there is whether the large language model is making what's called a fair use of the copywritten work. And that is going to be a huge battleground in the courts about AI, which is it fair use?
Yep. Or
Is
was
it
there a significant change? Right? Did it change enough? Did it read, a handful of finance articles from the Times and changed it enough to put out its own opinion essentially on it?
that goes to whether it constitutes copying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's not copied, copying is word for word. It's not like
Mhm.
plagiarizing or emulating. When it comes to copyright, it's like, did you steal the words? It's think about duplicating, making a copy of a page in a book.
Yeah.
That's
Control C,
copying.
Control V.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so lots of interesting and, like you said, fascinating copyright questions in AI. I don't think a ton of that will impact managed services.
I
Uh,
think they're a couple years out. I think the end clients are definitely starting to see it. They want to use it. They're all curious. They're using it personal, right? Everybody's playing around with it. I think that similar to kind of what we see on the phone side, right? We saw traditional businesses, your legal, your accounting firm, stuff like that. They all want a phone. You look at your startup companies, none of them want a physical phone. They all want the soft phone. They want it on their desktop. They want it on their cell phone. I think we'll see the younger companies want to adopt it. They like that. We all grew up in a technology era, right? We like toys. So I think that we'll see them try to adapt it more into their business. Um, and I think that whether that's a startup in our space or a startup as an end client of our space, I think that we will start to see need for it, right? And we're definitely seeing like Jimmy Hansel just launched Hats AI. Um, we have quite a few vendors in the space now. We've got AmiBot, which has some AI to it, Pia, who has some AI to it. So we got a lot of different people who are playing that space that are building out and utilizing AI to push things further, whether it's setting up machines. I think there's some cool stuff to come, which is great. I'm really looking forward to watching, like you said, last year it was one or two, right? This year it's already more. By the end of this year, I think it's going to be far more. But the question is, will everyone kind of try to tackle the same, right? I think everyone's kind of floated around the same issue, which is, could we use AI to set up workstations? Could we, fast track some of that for the MSPs, which I love. I think that's great, right? Anything we can do to lessen the workload on MSPs means they make more profit, which is, great for everyone. What's the next problem that they try to solve with AI? I think that's what'll be interesting. I know there's always been a struggle in the space around sales and marketing, right? Will there be utilization in that? Like the other vendor I talked about that's utilizing that for the sales aspect. I wonder if we'll watch more of a break in on that space, but it's going to be an interesting year for sure.
and 100%. And I think that the technology, the competition in the space, right? We talk about OpenAI and ChatGPT, but there are many large
Oh,
language models out there, and that's just one category of AI, right? So I just think that if you're in the software business, you've got to be thinking about what is your plan for AI. And then if you're in a service business, you got to be confronting the idea that human capital is very expensive, unreliable, and difficult to find. And so if you accept those three principles, then you're at this point of saying automation is a priority, strategic, at the highest levels our organization, automation is a priority. It infects everything that we do, everything that we talk about, how we problem solve. Everything that we do at Monjur is about thinking about automation. How do we scale? How do we serve more people better? How do we enhance the customer experience? The customer doesn't care if I have someone in my back office, entering payments. It doesn't do anything for them. So
Absolutely.
we want to use AI in a way to allow the human resources to engage with the customer, to make the customer feel a certain way, to
100%.
feel taken care of, to feel cared about, to feel protected. If we're doing all this busy work that computers can do, then we're not doing that. Take my industry. And again, I'm 53. I'm old enough to have seen when I started in the legal industry, lawyers talked to machines that took down what they wanted to put in a letter and then gave it to a secretary to type up on a typewriter. I saw typewriters give way to word processors. When
Yep.
I first started, there were 300 word processing applications. How many are there today?
2, 3.
2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
So I saw typewriters give way to word processors. I saw fax machines change the legal industry. And then email came, right? And so now we deliver our legal services directly into our clients' applications
Yep.
through integration and hyperlinks. And so the whole world is changing very quickly. It's not just in law, but elsewhere. And what I tell people when they ask me about the big question with AI and law is like, AI is going to take over your industry. You're all going to be obsolete. And what I say is this: in the near term, AI will not replace lawyers, but lawyers that use AI effectively will quickly replace those that don't.
Yep. Agreed.
And I think the same thing is true in voice over IP and in managed services.
Yep.
The interesting thing with law is like you can create the smartest AI tool that can pass the bar exam in every state, and it can never get a license. So you're always going to need a lawyer in the loop.
Yep.
You got to have a professionally licensed person. Doesn't matter. So with Monjur, our philosophy is put the best technology in the hands of the most experienced lawyers. Before, we used to think about technology as an alternative to lawyers. My vision is it's not either or, it's both. You take the best lawyers, you put them with the best technology. And that means the best lawyers need to be training AI.
Agreed. We actually did have a question come in. I think we'll change gears a little bit here. We've been focused on AI, which is, I think, a huge piece of our future. This question is a little bit more about the present day and probably a little bit of the past of the MSP. So you touched on it early. One of the biggest things that MSPs are coming to you for is MSAs, right? Their contracts. So Degley asked, "Hey Rob, have you had to litigate any of the contracts you've set up for clients, or has any MSP focused attorneys done it in the past few years?" So I think that is interesting. We hear it a lot. Have you had to, go to battle for any of your MSPs on it?
Yeah, so one thing about us is we actively litigate privacy security cases as well as disputes with MSPs and their clients. So
Okay.
we have over 250 MSPs on our platform. When they have a legal issue, they bring it to us. And unfortunately, from time to time, it results in litigation. So we not only bring litigation on behalf of MSPs, we also defend litigation on behalf of MSPs. So the types of cases that we encounter are a customer wants to terminate, they don't want to pay their early termination fee.
Mm-hmm.
We think those are very good cases, and we bring those cases for our clients based on our agreements, and we have good success. All of our agreements require arbitration.
Yep.
So we're not litigating those cases in courts because they have arbitration clauses, but we bring those in at any given time. We have a handful of those matters. Right now, we're litigating 6 cases around the country. And some of those, in fact, do involve clients with our agreements. One case that I could tell you about, which informs some of the things that are in our MSA, so it relates to the topic that you want to focus on, is that in our MSA today, it requires the end user, unless otherwise agreed in a statement of work, to maintain their own independent backup. So this would be a secondary or tertiary backup to what the MSP is taking. And that wound up in my agreements because I was litigating a case for a client on contracts that we wrote where they had an obligation to perform backups, and the backups failed because of a RAID failure on the server. So the server had the RAID had one drive go, and then the second drive blew out, and the backups weren't being taken. And so there was no question that my client was responsible. It was contractually obligated to take backups that it didn't take. But we were able to be successful in that case because the end user clients were tax prep firms, accounting firms, and doing tax prep. The IRS requires that a tax preparation firm maintain copies of all of their tax returns for 7 years. So I argued in that case, you have no injury that we created. Had you complied with the IRS rules that require you to maintain these tax returns that you're saying have gone missing, that you're saying now have caused you all these injuries, you wouldn't have any injury. Your injury is the result of your not complying with the law. So I took that same concept and put it into our MSA. In addition, in that case, we had a limitation of liability. These parties were claiming hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages. But if you read our limitation of liability, it says you're limited to 6 months of fees paid. And we offered them the calculation under the limitation of liability, which came out to like $13,000. They wanted $300,000. And the insurance carrier, which ultimately hired me to defend the cases, wound up settling at a number that, because of our contracts and because of the arguments that we advanced, was way less than what it would have been. And because the carrier came in and made the end users whole, my client was able to keep them as clients, which I think is a huge victory in a situation like that. So the answer is yes. We've had some very important parts of our agreements tested in court. There are others that are newer. We just put updates in. We're updating constantly, which is the value of the Monjur platform, is the dynamic updates. And I would be lying if I said that every provision in all of our agreements is battle tested in court, because they're not. I mean, there's a lot of things that are in agreements. Even if there's a court case, those provisions don't come. They're not part of the dispute. So there are cases involving MSPs. There was one last year, a famous case by an insurance carrier, the Travelers, that sued an MSP for failure to properly disclose the use of MFA within the organization. That MSP had a ransomware attack and made a claim to the insurance. The insurance carrier not only said, no, we're not defending the claim, but then sued the MSP to rescind the contract. And so as a result of that court case, we added a provision in our MSA that says the MSP can help the end user customer prepare applications for cyber liability insurance, but it's the customer's responsibility for that information, and the MSP is not responsible for any adverse actions taken by the carrier in connection with either underwriting or claims. And these are the types of things that really demonstrate what's going on with the Monjur platform and why it's valuable. You mentioned regulations. In the last 6 months, we've had data privacy laws pass in Colorado, Virginia, and Connecticut. The challenge for MSPs is they don't know what data subjects all of their customers have. And so when people sign up for the Monjur platform, we have a data processing agreement service. It's worldwide and it's unlimited. And we tell our clients, get all states. You don't know where all these people are. So your agreements need to be compliant so that you can do business in every state. And it's not just those, and that wasn't an aberration that Virginia, Colorado, and Connecticut all passed laws very quickly. We've got the same thing coming this year with 3 or 4 other states coming online with new data privacy laws. And my expectation is that it will continue to grow just like the breach notification laws, where you start out with California and there were a few and a few and a few, and now everyone has,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I think the data processing and data privacy laws will be the same.
No, 100%. I mean, we're seeing it more and more, right? Our industry was relatively hidden from the public eye, and I think slowly over time, it's been a good and a bad thing, right? It's good because I think it draws awareness to the community. I think it makes people aware that you don't have to hire, your cousin's son because he likes computers, right? You can hire a professional with a contract and a backing and an insurance and everything, that can truly take good care of you. And I think that, with that level of exposure has also become a little level of exposure on the regulatory side, right? We're seeing more regulatory come in for security, right? And some of those cyber incidents, right, where the land and expand through the RMM and unfortunate incidents like that have happened over the last couple of years really forced that forward. And I think that we're just at the start of it. There's a lot of great MSPs and influencers in the space that are really kind of taking charge on that and trying to connect with local government and big government to try to make sure that it's balanced. Because right, if we're not part of that conversation, it's going to get ugly. But yeah, I think that kind of like what you talked about with the lawyers, if you're not utilizing the current tools of today to keep advancing your business, you probably will be passed or die out next to your colleagues who do. And I think the same thing's going to happen with those who see and get ahead of the regulatory, whether it be I had the right insurance in place. Cybersecurity insurance wasn't really a thing until a couple of years ago, at least mainstream. Now you're seeing MSPs besides the franchise and large scale MSPs, right? PE-backed MSPs. You're seeing everybody is picking up a contract on that. So it's really good to see, but I think that we're going to watch a huge shift over the next couple of years here. Those who will get ahead of it will get ahead of the compliance that'll come with it and everything else, because if not, we're going to see a lot of pain, unfortunately.
There's no doubt. And I would say that the one thing that I see when you ask me about MSAs, the biggest thing that I see is that most MSPs, MSAs don't adequately address that vendor risk land and expand concept that you described. So, for example, during the Kaseya ransomware attacks, which I think in many ways have shaped the current landscape of our industry, I started to dig into this question very deeply, studying their agreements, analyzing fact patterns involving both end users that were impacted by that event as well as MSPs. And we created something that we call the Schedule of Third-Party Service Providers. And it acts as a waiver of the MSP's end user's right to sue the MSP for any act or omission of any of the vendors. And it comes pre-populated to our subscribers with over 200 vendors in the community. And it includes the name of the vendor, the service that they're used for, a link to their terms and conditions, and a link to their privacy policy. And the reason that we do that is, in digging into that Kaseya case more deeply, what I realized is most courts around the country use the same rule, which is, in order for the court to enforce a waiver of the right to sue, it needs to be a knowing waiver of a right that's fully understood and appreciated, clear and unequivocal waiver of a known right. So when we had our contracts before, and you see this in otherwise well-written MSAs, will say MSP is not responsible for the acts or omissions of a third party. I don't think that gets you where you need to be, because it doesn't meet the knowing element. Can you say that in that situation, the customer knew that you were using, for example, Kaseya, and that it knew what the terms would be of an incident that happened. And so that's why we created this schedule of third-party services. It's proprietary to the Monjur platform, and it's one of those things that when I review MSAs, it's one of the top areas that I see being missing.
No, absolutely. That's phenomenal knowledge. And I couldn't agree more. And I think that'll be an interesting battle to watch, right? How do the agreements evolve on the vendor side versus the MSP side? And I'm sure we'll see a lot of evolution come from that in the next couple of years. We did have another question that came in. This one's from Sandy, our old friend there. So Sandy said, are you seeing / working with clients on compliance? For example, mandated SOC 2 compliance for MSPs.
Yeah, so I have served on the board of the MSP Alliance that created the certification standard for cloud and managed services, which the accountants use to do the SOC 2.
Okay.
So that was created for this purpose because MSPs that wanted to get into heavily regulated or enterprise or government, they needed a SOC 2 because at the enterprise procurement organization, a SOC 2 is a check the box item. You're either have it or you don't. If you don't have it, you don't get to the table.
Yeah.
And so, I've seen that. The other thing that I've seen is that managed compliance services offering
Mhm.
compliance work for end user clients in regulated industries is probably the fastest growing area in managed services. And I think will continue to be that way. And we offer a privacy, security, and compliance library. It contains all of the policies and procedures that would be required by typical privacy regulations, including the written information security policy, the breach incident response plan, disaster recovery plan, acceptable use policy for AI, and all of those policies that you need. And we develop them for the MSP, but we license them to the MSP to use with their customers as part of a compliance management solution. That same library includes the statement of work for cybersecurity risk assessments, as well as our newest service attachment, which is the service attachment for managed compliance, which allows the MSP to offer those services without taking responsibility for someone coming along, for example, a regulator, and saying the company was out of compliance here or there, or otherwise being responsible for those outcomes. And so this is an agreement that's written where the scope of work tracks what's required to be done to be in compliance with the regulation, but also has the customer obligations and appropriate exclusions in it to protect the MSP in doing those services. So I've not only been around compliance because of my background in developing the standard with the board originally, but now with Monjur, privacy, security, and compliance is our most popular bundle because of the policies, because they're made available to the MSP to use with their customers, and because the prevalence of cybersecurity risk assessments in the marketing side, and then offering managed compliance services has really become a better way to sell security, because most end users understand you need this to be compliant with the law. They don't fully appreciate one tool versus the other and why one's better, but they understand if you don't do this, it's illegal.
Oh, absolutely. Sandy said, thank you, Rob. Great to see you again. Thank you, Sandy. As always, love your participation and support. Yeah, no, I think there's a never ending topic here, right? And I think with so many layers where you have suppliers up front, you have the MSPs in the middle, you have end clients, you have employees on all levels, uh, social engineering, cybersecurity, hacking's come a long way. MGM. It's a tough world to live in, right? You have a lot of different layers where things could go wrong. It's good to see the level of kind of maturity that's come from our industry, whether it be the MSPs, the providers, right, the legal aspect of it, insurance aspect of it. You've really seen it all move forward, which is awesome to see. So I love seeing that. I think that it's definitely just done nothing but push our industry forward. And it has made the vendors respond, whether it's forced MFA. I know on the B website, we made a lot of changes over the last, I'd say 2 years here. From a security standpoint, security definitely led a lot of what we did, whether it was forced MFA or single sign-on, PIN code, ID verification to make sure who's calling in is not trying to hack into MGM and make a big stink. Things like that. Just it's good to see it. It's refreshing.
I would say that in my experience, there's a lot of opportunity for increased security in the voice over IP context. I recently worked on a breach incident, which was which was a social engineered attack, where the attackers were able to reroute the call forwarding program so that when they initiated a wire transfer at the bank and the bank called the office, they were transferred the call that the receptionist was trying to transfer to the owner, went to the threat actors, and the threat actors answered the questions for the bank to the bank's satisfaction, so they initiated the wire. And so what this tells me is the voice over IP server is every bit as important from a security perspective as the mail server or the file server or the any other server on the network. And what I've seen is that if we set up a server for networking, we have pretty well established security protocols for that.
Yep.
I still think there's more opportunity to have that kind of rigor when it comes to setting up voice servers. It
Great.
reminds me a little bit about where I was 10 years ago with MSPs. I was telling MSPs 10 years ago, you're in the security business. Whether you want to be in it or not, that's the business you're in. That's what you're selling. That's what the end user is buying.
Yep.
You can call it whatever you want, but that's what you're in. And at that time, there wasn't a unified view of what MSPs were doing that was focused around security. Today, everyone agrees. Back then, it was a somewhat controversial position. But I'm saying the same thing to voice professionals today. You need to make sure that those servers are every bit as secure as any other server that you're setting up, because these hackers, these threat actors are so sophisticated. I couldn't sleep at night when I was working on that case. It was so scary to me what they were able to do, and it was all because of a vulnerability in a voicemail system.
Oh, 100%. I mean, some of that comes back to, unfortunately, we see a lot in the void field, older technology, right? The box in the closet that's still being used 20 years ago. People will show up with the 1998 or the 2005 Cisco model and say, hey, can we make this work? And that's unfortunately one of those systems that traditionally I think people wanted to go a little bit lower cost on. But I think across the board, we're definitely seeing the vulnerabilities be exposed. I think there's a lot of areas that people just didn't think about. People are being more educated on today, which is great. I think people are more hesitant to respond to the email if it has financial questions in it. People have been relatively trained, at least in most of the business world, to pick up the phone, just call over and say, "Are you sure you wanted that from me? Oh, you didn't send that email? Great, thank you." We actually saw it ourselves. We had a sales rep who received a text message from George this year that asked for gift cards. And luckily he said that George would never ask me for gift cards. This is very silly, but it was well done. It was really well worded, that I was given a presentation. I mean, they clearly done some sort of research to realize who he was, what his profession was. But yeah, having that human component, if you can actually reroute that traffic and utilize that, it's very scary. For us for the last few years, those kind of stories are what would have really led us down that path of how do we make this as secure as humanly possible for the MSPs, make sure that their risk is less and less. Because I think our argument is the argument that goes around a lot of tools. Just because you want to outsource it to somebody else offsite doesn't mean you're not going to deal with it. They're still going to call you because it has electricity and a blinking light, so that's still going to end up on your desk and your problem at some point. And most MSPs are not going to say no, because they want the business, want to maintain that relationship. So you'll answer the call, you'll try to tweak the phone, get it working again, or whatever other service it is. But definitely an interesting one. I know we're running up on the end here, so I'm going to ask you for any last minute words of wisdom. You dropped a lot of really good nuggets in here, and I, first of all, I appreciate we've got to get you back on. So we'll definitely talk about getting you back on for another schedule, or maybe we'll get you to Community Minds. But last minute, any tips, tricks, last big, hey, pay attention to this, and then finally, I want to wrap up with how can MSPs contact you? So anybody that's listening right now, it's like, hey, I got to talk to Rob. I got to have him look at this. I'm now going to have cold sweats and then I'm not sleeping tonight because of my MSA. What's the best way? So we'll go through knowledge drop and then last minute, how to contact you.
So if you're listening to this, there's no reason for you to worry about whether or not your agreements are where they need to be, because you can send them to me, and that AI tool that I told you about, we'll do a complimentary review with that tool. I'll sit with you. I'll go through your agreement with you, and I'll explain to you the strengths and weaknesses of it. You could submit your MSAs at our website, monjur.com, www.monjur.com, and we're happy to go through it. But the biggest things that we see are in the regulatory compliance area, in the vendor risk area, and in the protection of what happens if I make a recommendation to you and you don't follow it. Those are sort of the three core components that MSPs are really focused on. When I do my meetings with MSPs and I ask them, what's keeping you up at night? Those are the three themes that come up the most. And so if you want to get in touch with us, you certainly can. We have webinars, we do personalized demos, and we offer the free AI MSA review. You can reach me at 214-999-0080 is my phone number. And I'm R. Scott at Monjur, MONJUR.com.
Love it. Rob, again, I appreciate it. As we wrap up here, we will be back on Tuesday, regular scheduled time, regular scheduled host. So George will be back with you guys on Tuesday. If you guys need anything in the meantime, if you guys are jonesing for some more MSP material, we've got plenty of sessions, 3.5 years, I think now sessions. So head on over to MSPinitiative.com. Register for MSP Community Minds. That's coming up quick in April in Nashville and July in Denver. And keep an eye out for our friends over at Monjur. It sounds like you guys are be on the road a lot. So what's the next show after this one that we'll see you at?
So we're here in New Orleans at the Producers Club. We're headed to NerdioCon in Punta Cana, and we're headed to Schnizzfest in Phoenix.
Awesome.
So those are the next few that are coming up. But we're also doing webinars every week on Fridays at noon. So if you can't see us on the road and visit us at events, you can certainly see us online or schedule a personal demo.
Perfect. Well, Rob, I will see you at NerdioCon. I'm also looking forward to that one. And we'll keep an eye out for your webinars. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks to everyone for joining us. And I hope everyone has a great end of the week and good weekend.
Thank you so much, Alec. Great to be with you.
Have a good one.
Take care.